it'll be okay to have a long night tonight?
I'm not sure about that because I was supposed to spend all this money with him, so I.
My name is Kara Rotrimmel, and I am the site coordinator and lead teacher of a one-room ABE schoolhouse in Forest Lake. We're part of the Forest Lake School District, and here we offer classes to adults of all levels, ranging from low ESL all the way up through advanced GED and diploma students. At intake, our site always uses a personal education plan where we get some information that really lets us know our learners. Are they working? What are their immediate goals? So coming into an educational plan for them, we really take information that we're getting here along with our personal relationship that we develop with our learners along the way. One of the benefits of working in a one-room schoolhouse is that one-on-one relationship that you have with your learners. You know, are they working? Do they like their job? Would they like a better job? What type of job would they like? And you can really take that information and incorporate that into your lessons. Another way, or how I kind of look at the big picture for ACES, is each week I come into my classroom, and these are the learners that I'll have on a regular basis each week. The days of the week that we hold classes are different volunteers that we're working with each day. But what I do is I focus on an ACES goal or an ACES category one at a time. This week, when I arrived, I first noted the week and then my ACES goal. So this week, my focus is developing a future pathway. So in each of the lessons that I lead or each of the learners that I work with, that is the focus in the back of my mind. And I think about how can I incorporate discussion lengths, or how can I focus on activities that would relate into developing a future pathway, but also that would be consistent with their primary scope and sequence that they're working on with our program. So when my learners get to my classroom each day, one thing that I do is not only note my category for the week, my category of focus, but I also literally bring my TIF along with me to the table. I sit down, I look at what our curriculum is for the lesson that day, and then I also bring the TIF, and as that learner's settling in, starting their lesson, I look at, okay, what categories here would not only be relevant to the work that we're doing today, but would also be relevant to that particular learner, or sometimes it's groups of learners. Many times at a one-room schoolhouse, we have well-planned groups that take shape each day. Sometimes they're learners that we don't always like to group together, or we wouldn't typically group together, that might have very different levels and very different goals. But I would bring this with and carry the TIF with me so that I can, at a glance, look at what could be relevant and what could be meaningful for all of the learners at the table that day. What's sometimes unique about a one-room schoolhouse is that many times our learners come in unexpected. We might be pulling off a lesson that we hadn't planned to do that day. So in the beginning of my ACES work, that was one thing that was most challenging for me, is to fit in, how do I bring in skills or sub-skills from the developing a future pathways category that would be relevant to the lesson that we're working on. And through my years with the program, I found different materials that work well, that I draw on. One thing that I thought was really important throughout this process was that the ACES training and the ACES teaching really shouldn't change my scope and sequence or the main goal that my learner might have coming into the program. But what's different is how can I pull these categories out that they might not have been getting in a typical lesson and make it relevant to the work that we're doing that day. So along the lines of developing a future pathway, some of the materials that I regularly use with my learners are work-related vocabularies, skills, or discussions that might be brought up through the working experience. This is one book that I tend to use on a regular basis. Another book that I like is Put English to Work, which ranges from very, very beginning literacy levels, and it goes all the way through level 5, which can get into some pretty advanced topics and vocabulary. And also the vocabulary through the Reading for Life series can be something that I would draw on. Today, when I was working with a learner, a beginning lit ESL learner, we had the category of clothing and shopping. That was our goal for the day. So when I came into my classroom and I thought, okay, this is what I want to bring out this week, how can I focus on developing a future pathway through the lens of clothing and shopping? What I did was I went to my Put English to Work book and I found something that was not new for this learner, but we looked at different job-related vocabulary and we focused on this page here that had different pictures of different workers. We have bankers, we have a post office worker, we have healthcare workers, and then we could draw on the clothing vocabulary, which was my primary focus, and look at areas that they have in common. Would this worker wear a sweater? Would this worker need socks? And we really tailored the lesson to still have the primary focus of clothing, but also brought in thinking along the lines of carrying this vocabulary and these categories into the workplace, which was my ACES goal for the week.
Schoolhouse?
I would say take it small, and that's what I did when I first came in. You would have seen a category up here for weeks at a time until I got comfortable with it. And you're going to have categories that you know like the back of your hand, that you might be able to leave your TIF in your classroom. There are categories that I still carry the TIF with me to deliver instruction if I don't know them as well, or really look at, you know, this is what's happening today, what's relevant, and what can I pull from the TIF today.
Great.
One of the things that we rely on here in a one-room schoolhouse so heavily is the use of our volunteer staff. So this year, a goal with my coworker and I is to bring our volunteers into the ACES process. We know that we touch a very small percentage of our learners here each day, and with a staff of 20 active volunteers, we know that they're the ones that are delivering a lot of the instruction. So a QComp goal for my coworker and myself is to develop a training that would provide a very easy look at the TIF and a very small amount of training where we could bring them up to speed and have them on board with us each day.